If World War III broke out between the world's most powerful nations, where would you run to hide and why? It doesn't begin with the sound of jets overhead or the blast of bombs in the distance. There's no countdown, no warning sirens, no dramatic newscast with breaking headlines scrolling across the bottom of your screen. Instead, it starts in eerie silence. One morning, you wake up in your apartment in Atlanta, the same as any other day. You grab your phone and swipe to unlock it, but nothing loads. No texts. No Wi-Fi. No signal. You shrug it off, maybe your internet's down. You head to the kitchen, flip on the light, and it flickers before dimming into darkness. The coffee maker doesn't turn on. Neither does the fridge. By the time you step outside to see if anyone else on the block is having the same issue, you realize it's not just you. Across the street, your neighbor Paul is standing barefoot in his driveway, holding his iPad and looking thoroughly confused. The local Starbucks has a line of people forming outside, employees trying to explain that nothing works. No power. No credit cards. No Wi-Fi. No nothing. Then you hear it on someone's old battery-powered radio. A broadcast, crackling through static, markets have halted, multiple financial systems offline, suspected cyber attack targeting key infrastructure across several countries, and that's it. Silence again. Then a different voice, urgent and grim, stand by for updates. By noon, it's all unraveling. Satellite communications drop. News channels blink into static. Airports close. Emergency alert systems buzz to life across the country. Social media feeds die mid-scroll. Messages never send. Your last glimpse online is a trending hashtag digital blackout. And then come the explosions. It's not clear who fires the first shot. Some say it's a retaliatory missile strike in Eastern Europe. Others claim it started with a blackout in Seoul followed by a chain reaction across military command systems. No one really knows. The truth gets buried under smoke and rubble before it ever finds air. Within 48 hours, entire cities are leveled. A half-dozen superpowers, names we've all grown up hearing in headlines and history books, start tearing each other apart. Satellites fall out of the sky. Naval fleets vanish. Airstrikes thunder across continents. Civilization as we know it doesn't collapse in slow motion, it implodes like a soda can in a vice grip. I don't wait for the government to tell me what to do. I've seen this movie before. The first sign wasn't the missile strikes. It wasn't the internet dying or the loss of power. It was that silence, that feeling in your gut that tells you the world just changed and no one knows what the hell comes next. So I grab my go bag. One I've been quietly building for years, not because I'm paranoid, but because I believe in backup plans. My essentials are already packed: documents, cash, water purifier, solar-powered radio, first aid kit, a worn paperback of The Stand, for comfort, and my dog, Captain, half lab, half whatever wandered up. We hit the road. No goodbyes. No waiting. No plan beyond get far. Get remote. Get quiet. Once the decision is made, the first 72 hours are everything. I head south, away from the chaos blooming like wildfire in the big cities. Interstate signs flicker, half-lit or dark altogether. Gas stations are either out of fuel or overrun with panicked drivers. People are shouting at each other, fighting over supplies. Cops are trying to keep control, but even they look unsure, scared. The radio crackles with inconsistent reports. Some stations are still operating, offering emergency routes or shelter zones. Others have gone silent. One station plays nothing but folk music, like someone's chosen to serenade the end of the world. By the time I hit the Florida coast, the airports are a mess of mobs of travelers trying to get anywhere. Flights are cancelled. Borders are closing. I'd planned for this. No airport for me. Instead, I'm trying to get to New Zealand. Why? Because New Zealand is, historically speaking, the least interested country in fighting other people's wars. They've got more sheep than citizens, more farmland than asphalt. It's surrounded by ocean. It doesn't host massive military bases or nuclear stockpiles. It's the geopolitical version of a hobbit hole, quiet, overlooked, and self-sustaining. The climate? Mild. Of the food? Local. The people? Famously chill. Also, no snakes. Irrelevant? Maybe. Comforting when you're navigating the apocalypse barefoot? Absolutely. Problem is, New Zealand knows how good it's got it. The moment world news spirals into nightmare fuel, they slam their borders shut tighter than a pickle jar. Unless you're a citizen, or you are already flying in, your odds of entry are lower than winning the lottery during a thunderstorm while getting struck by lightning. I try anyway. There's a private charter docked in the Keys, loading up food and equipment. I barter what I can: gear, cash, my medical kit. They let me on, Captain too. We head out, sailing east, aiming for open waters. It's risky, but I'd rather gamble on the ocean than get caught in whatever chaos is consuming the mainland. We sail for days. Radio silence increases. The world is quieting down, but not in a peaceful way. It's the hush of a storm's eye, the pause between destruction and aftermath. And then we hear, New Zealand's borders are officially closed. No incoming. No exceptions. Well, time for Plan B. With New Zealand off the table, it's back to the map. I've always had a backup. And my backup is beautiful, volcanic, and so remote it might as well be on another planet. The Azores. If you've never heard of them, don't feel bad, most people haven't. They're a cluster of islands in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, technically part of Portugal but a solid 1,000 miles away from the mainland. Picture craggy cliffs, rolling green hills, waterfalls that tumble through moss-covered valleys, and small villages with whitewashed houses and terracotta roofs. The kind of place where time moves slower and people still trade bread for favors. The Azores have several things going for them. They're remote. No one's going to waste a nuke on a volcanic island chain with no tactical value. They're self-sufficient. Lots of fishing. Lots of farming. Fresh water. Fertile land. Geothermal power in many spots. They're ignored. If the world's burning, the Azores are the damp patch on the rug that doesn't catch fire. It takes weeks to get there, hopping from one vessel to another, trading supplies for passage. Captain adjusts better than I do, turns out. Dogs don't care where they are as long as you're nearby and there's something to sniff. Eventually, I land on São Jorge, one of the more rugged islands. It's not touristy, which is perfect. I find a crumbling stone cottage just outside a small town. The locals speak broken English, and I speak barely passable Portuguese, but kindness is a universal language. I trade some medical knowledge and basic survival training for a roof over my head. Days become rhythms, mending fences, collecting rainwater, learning to grow potatoes. I discover a passion for pottery I never knew I had. Captain becomes something of a village mascot. I listen to the solar radio every evening, searching for updates, and mostly hearing static. Once in a while, a distant station crackles through with names of cities. Some are marked safe. Others are gone. The world is quiet. And I'm still here. Months pass. Maybe longer. Time blurs when you're measuring it by sunrise and fish count instead of appointments and emails. There are no texts, no trending topics, no alarms. Just ocean, wind, and the occasional bark from Captain when a goat gets too close. The radio brings occasional word of survivors' networks forming across Europe, some small settlements rebuilding in Canada, and whispers of a new governing body forming in the Scandinavian countries. America? Not much word. Fragmented leadership, some cities in total blackout. No major news from Washington in months. And here I am, living like a hermit in a hoodie, turning clay into mugs and cups, trading smoked sardines for goat cheese, and reading books by candlelight like it's 1820. Sometimes kids from the village wander by and sit on the porch. I tell them stories, not about dragons or wizards, but about what the world used to be. I describe Times Square, Disneyland, Costco, and drive-thrus. They listen like I'm describing Atlantis. Captain lays at my feet, occasionally wagging his tail when I mention hot dogs. If the world ever fully recovers, if we rebuild from this scorched earth reset, I'm not sure I'll leave the Azores. I've seen what the cities became when the lights went out. I've seen how fast we unravel when the power goes off and the convenience vanishes. Out here, life is small. It's humble. It's honest. And strangely, in its own quiet way, it's better. The question comes up often, sometimes out loud, more often inside my head. Why run? Why vanish into the edges of the map instead of staying and fighting? Because if World War III ever breaks loose for real, the world's major cities are going to be the first to fall. Strategic locations become war zones. Resources vanish. Borders crumble. Governments default to survival mode, hunkering down in secret bunkers with encrypted Wi-Fi and freeze-dried creme brulee while the rest of us get left behind. But places like the Azores? Or New Zealand? Or maybe even Bhutan if you can hike in quietly enough? Those are the forgotten corners. The overlooked sanctuaries. The places that survive not by strength or defense, but by being invisible to the firestorm. These places are resilient. Not because they're powerful, but because they're simple. And in a world rebuilt from rubble, simplicity wins. So if you ever wonder where I went, don't look for me in a fortified vault or some abandoned mall overrun with survivors turned bandits. Look for me on a windswept cliff, overlooking the sea. Dog by my side. Goat nearby. Sourdough rising in a clay pot. A mug of herbal tea in my hand. And maybe, just maybe, I'm telling stories to a new generation about the way the world once was. And how we decided to make it better this time. Captain's still wagging his tail. And I'm still here.